Welcome, Dungeon Delvers, to the very first live stream for the world's largest Dungeon Redux 20th Anniversary Edition campaign. It's blasting off in just under a month from now on May 13th. But to give you guys a little taste of what's in store for the campaign, we've invited expert master miniature painter Luke Busler to the stream tonight. Welcome, Luke.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So, folks, before we get started, since this is our first stream, I will welcome Corey. I'll take a little privilege and tell you guys what's actually going on, since this is a new venture, but not entirely new folks in the industry. So, indulge me for just 1 second while I show you guys what's going on. The first place to go, if you want to get information on what's going on, is worldslargestrpgs.com. That'll explain everything. And let me pull that up so you guys can see that. Boom, on stage now. Nice. So, guys, the world's largest dungeon is the Guinness Book of World Records setting largest dungeon ever published. Still holds the title. And AEG did it back in the early 2000s. And a group of folks, some you might recognize, we'll get to who they are in a second, have purchased the rights to reprint a bunch of AEG material, including the world's largest dungeon. So this is the first outing with the new group. And so basically it was a dungeon that changed history. This is the 20th anniversary. So we're bringing it back bigger and better than ever. With a platinum edition, there's going to be, actually, it says 16 new boss miniatures, but we squeezed in 2 more. So it's going to be 18 new boss miniatures. And we're going to show you some of those tonight. We've got curated miniature sets from Reaper Miniatures to help you run this if you're running at your table. We've got a whole all-new first level by the original author, Jim Pinto. We've got 16 poster-sized maps, exclusive dice, audiobook versions, secret door encounters, so I'm going to get to in a second, because this is an exciting way for you guys to join in the fun of World's Largest Dungeon and get published yourselves and break into the industry. And so let's go into, we'll get to secret doors in a second. Actually, while we're here, we'll talk about it. So we've got a bunch of great folks in the industry, so like Tim Brown you might know from Dragon Kings. He's also part of the world's largest RPGs. But we've got a little guy named Robert J. Swab. You might know him from Shadow of the Demon Lord and other great projects. And a host of other awesome people in the industry who are writing secret door encounters that brings you into the dungeon from their various awesome RPG worlds. So if so you can take a Dragon Kings adventure and take your party and enter into the world's largest dungeon through there. And this is also this secret door encounter. We're going to have a whole book of these additions to the world's largest dungeon from luminaries in the RPG industry. And this is also going to be a book where we're holding a contest called Portals to Adventure, where you can submit your adventure idea. It'll be all fan voted during the campaign. And the top number of folks will share a prize pool of money that we're going to raise to give away to the winners and get published. So it'll be a great way to break into the industry, and it'll all be up to your peers to decide if your adventure is what they want to see in the book. So that's a pretty exciting thing too. But the miniatures we're going to get to tonight, they are awesome. But this is the team. So you might recognize Tim Brown from Dark Sun. He worked with TSR, 2300 AD. He is a giant in the industry, and he is part of the creative team behind this. Frank is our logistics expert, runs Studio 2 Publishing with Jim. So they've got decades and decades in the board game, RPG, book publishing, warehousing, distribution industry. So we've got a solid team there. And then a whole bunch of other folks who are a lot of fun. So come check out World's Largest RPGs. But I'm Chris Landauer, and I am the campaign manager for this. And so, I think that's enough. So check out the World's Largest RPGs if you want some more information on who's behind this whole cool thing. And for now, let's get to Luke, because we want to show off to you guys some really awesome miniatures. So these are all brand new miniatures, and during the campaign, we'll actually have our miniature sculptors on some live streams as well to talk about that. But we got them painted for you because it looks so much better on screen, so you guys can see them lovely and painted. And one more banner, just in case you're interested in that contest. Let me throw it up here. Portals2adventure.com. That's the address. The website looks like this. And that's where you can go and find out all the information on the prizes, on when the publication, how we're going to publish your material, how we're voting. All you have to do is go to portals-2-adventure.com and then click on create a new secret door for all the information you need. There's a fact, rules, hints, and create an account. And the way we're generating the cash prizes is we are going to have $1 per vote, and you get 10 votes per person and maximum. And that's how we're going to be able to raise a prize pool for you guys to get some awesome prizes for the top contestants. And then depending on how the campaign goes and some stretch goals, more and more of you folks might actually make it into the Secret Doors book. So all that being said, a lot of cool, fun stuff. But tonight is about thanks, Corey. We are a cool team. So guys, tonight is about Luke and the miniatures. So let's get that back on screen. And let me pop off the banner here. Boom. Go a little bit large. So Luke, tell us about yourself. How did you get involved in RPGs? What was your first RPG experience? And then segue into like how you started painting miniatures.
Yeah, we might actually have to do it in the reverse order. I was painting before I got into RPGs. I started painting and playing war games when I was like 12 or 13. There was a cool store in my town called Medieval Starship that I went into, and like a lot of people, when I went in, my eyes got real big. I actually got the pleasure of taking my nephew to a store recently and got to see him. Wow, this stuff's so cool. And I think that I was back then. And I was pretty quickly drawn to Dark Angels and Dark Elves. So all the dark factions there for Warhammer. And I got some GW paints with the screw-on lids and stuff back then, and started painting a little bit. And then that was like a short for a little bit. And once I got to high school, I think I stopped painting any of that really. And it wasn't until I got to college that I met some friends who played Dungeons and Dragons and started doing some role-playing games then. So, we would go up to some of the study rooms in the dorm on Friday nights and play until the wee hours of the morning. And so it was shortly around then that I started getting back into painting again. I got really heavily into a game that back then was on the upswing, which was called Rackham Confrontation. It was a skirmish game, beautiful miniatures. And then I also got into Infinity by Corvus Belli. So scratching the sci-fi itch there. And it was probably the Rackham miniatures that really got me into painting. They published, I don't know if it was quarterly or if it just wasn't very regular, but they published a magazine called Warcry, where they would show minis. And back then, I mean, people who were painting back then will know what I mean, or hobbying back then. I mean, information was just scarce. It was like forums, maybe maybe a few books, but it was hard to figure out how certain techniques were done or how people did things. Like nowadays, there's just a wealth of information on YouTube and everything that you can find. But so seeing the paint jobs and stuff that the Rackham painters did on their miniatures was like mind-boggling. So I would like find a tutorial for one of those, and I'd basically go buy that exact miniature from the tutorial and try to replicate it start to finish just like they did, just so I could compare like A to B, and try and get better.
Yeah, I think it's a real common way for people to like get into the hobby and get better is like you mimic the cover art, right? Like I have this camera that does, okay, I can't use my hands or decides it needs to zoom in, but dramatic zoom. But like on miniatures, when they publish the cover art for the piece, they actually get it painted by a professional painter. A lot of painters will try to like replicate that exact same paint job on their miniatures as a good way to like, learn technique and see how they're doing. And like, I think a lot of tutorials from like some of the pros, kind of really focusing on that. But you're unique because not only are you an excellent painter, but you have experience in the world's largest dungeon. So How did you meet JM? So for folks who don't know, one of the leading forces behind World's Largest RPGs is John Matthew DeFoge. You'll know him from Jackal's The Bronze Age RPG. He's the Savage Universe community manager for Savage Worlds. And he's also the lead developer for Strange Owl Games. And Strange Owl Games, so like Emboria and Space at 89 After, some really great RPGs. They are one of the production partners on the World's Largest Dungeon. So, yeah, you kind of got roped in through JM. So how did you meet JM?
Yeah, so we're based in Colorado here. I've been out here for about 15 years. And when we moved out here, I moved out here for a job. And a friend at work told me about this new game store in town called Petrie's Family Games and said that they had all sorts of cool events going on. And so I just signed up for an event. I believe the first one was a Mouse Guard RPG one-shot. And JM was running it. It was a really good time. And I think I started stalking his events and going to them. So I went to like an L5R one-shot, Mutants and Masterminds one-shot, things like that. And fortunately, he liked me as a player. And so he invited me to an ongoing D&D 4th edition campaign they had. And it was great. And we just kind of went from there.
And so he actually ran you through World's Largest Dungeon.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say. Yeah, so at this game store, we had, I'm guessing JM pitched it to do a weekly World's Largest Dungeon game. So it was on Saturdays from like, I don't know, 10 to 6 or something like that. And we would have 10 to 14 players, I would say, weekly. So we had this giant U table set up with like a big whiteboard at the end. And we used a bunch of, I think we had like Dwarven Forge tiles on a table in the middle. Yeah, so it was really cool. My wife played with me. I'll be honest, I'm trying to think right now. I remember other people's characters. I don't know that I remember my character, but yeah, it was really fun.
Nice. So yeah, we'll have to get JM on the stream and go over some juicy fun stories from your campaign. For folks who found us at Gen Con, we had a whole little diorama set up with the gibbering mouther, and there was a diorama with it that Luke also painted. And we've got the mini here, but the diorama is still with JM. And there's some really cool additions on the diorama that kind of speak back to that campaign, some other characters. And oh my God, I love that miniature. There were 500 lucky people at Gen Con who got to take home a mini of the gibbering. Put a poll. Is it gibbering or is it gibbering now?
It's gibbering, I think.
But yeah, it's a gorgeous mini. And the one that's on there now is for the update, we're calling him Scorch. He's got an old name, a red dragon and thing, but Scorch is kind of a little fun thing that I throw into some campaigns, and for the Pinnacle folks will know. So Scorch, you got some really cool stuff with Scorch. This red dragon, we're gonna have a plush. We're gonna have a cool miniature in the die. But oh my God, this paint job. So why am I looking at this thing? Like, where do you even begin to paint a miniature like this?
Yeah, so I mean, before I even start with any paint, I'm thinking a lot about the model. How are we going to paint it? For this one in particular, I was some of these they basically just told me to go wild on, which was pretty fun. Yeah. This one I did, it was like, it's a red dragon. Okay, so we got that constraint. And I decided what I wanted to do was to use the old D&D Red Box cover art as the inspiration for this. And so I looked at that for a while. And it's, if you are a painter and you don't use references right now, I'd highly recommend that you look at references and things for inspiration. For example, on the wings here, I would probably never have made the choice to also make this red color next to the skin. I probably would have chosen something a lot more contrasting or different. But if you look at the Red Box cover art, that's the way it is. Like these skin flaps are very similar to the color of the skin. And it's the red dragon there's got all these yellow and orange tones, which is really cool. So I start with that.
When you prime, do you always pick the same color to prime, or does it change like where you're going with the miniature?
Yeah, I almost always prime. It's usually like a mid neutral gray or a like an ivory color. That's usually what I start with, but I will do a lot of underpainting or which is a lot of people might be familiar with zenithal highlighting, which is a form of underpainting. So basically you're putting tones and values and colors in places so that when you put other paints on top of them, some of that darkness or lightness comes through and helps create a lighting effect on the model. So I do quite a bit of that before I'm actually painting what I'm anticipating to be the end effect. And the nice thing about that stage is you can really do whatever you want. You can make mistakes. I mean, really the great thing about painting is you can make mistakes all throughout the process and just paint over them again. So.
Yeah, it is forgiving. It is nice. That's another thing too. It's like I've noticed that I mean, even being the like buck private novice level painter that I am, no one notices your mistakes. Like your commitment to perfection on what's you want or what your vision is like here, and what anyone has ever. I mean, unless you're like submitting it for like an award-winning competition, like Luke's won awards for his painting. So our friend Cryptwright asks, "What's the base model made of?" So I've got an example of one here. This is a resin. So I did all the 3D printing for these, and we're actually getting these produced professionally. So it won't be out of my basement when you guys there in the campaign get them. But I printed these up on an Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra, and Sunlu ABS-like resin is my go-to there. So even at this size, I mean, you can do 50 microns, which is like a faster print. You can get down to like 19 microns. But these models are actually very detailed, even in the details. But even at 50 microns, you really trying to find layer lines is almost impossible. You get a little more texture in some of the, broad flat areas. But I mean, on any of these minis, I haven't seen any layer lines on any of these minis. So sometimes, like if you print like a cube or whatever with an actual flat plane, you'll see some stuff. But that's what is there. And then we're getting these produced. So we're actually talking with our producers on what kind of method that they're going to be using to create these, and whether we want things hollowed, we want the bases attached, all that good stuff. So that's an ongoing conversation on the production side. So no one notices your mistakes, Crip, right? That's right.
Yeah. There's one art book I read talked about having I don't remember exactly what they termed it, but it's basically like the eye of the creator and the eye of the beholder. And when you're creating things, you're very critical. You're like looking at everything you want to change because you're building it. You want to see what's wrong so you can fix it. And when you make something, it's very hard to switch the eye of the beholder, which just takes in the entire thing and appreciates it. And so when other people see it, they're already in that observation beholding mode, which is really nice.
Nice. So the neutral gray, do you mix your own primers? It was like most of that I found, like the primers come in kind of like black and white, at least the Vallejo that I use. And so do you make a custom mix, or did you find a gray primer? Do you do straddle can? Do you airbrush? How do you apply primers?
So I do use an airbrush sometimes. And I think I've been using a Vallejo gray primer for that. But I do a lot of rattle can priming in my garage. We're kind of lucky here in Colorado. You can prime pretty much year round. And I tend to use some of the GW primers. So I'm trying to remember I think Wraithbone is the more ivory one that I go with. I don't remember the other one. And then recently I was trying some of the, it's Color Forge maybe. It used to be a primer that was only available in the UK. And recently Monument Hobbies started to distribute it, I think, in the US. And they're kind of known for making primers that are very similar to some of the other Citadel paint colors. and I just wanted to try them. So that's what I've been using lately.
Nice. I never get a rattle can to work right. Like it either goes from like not working to like just dripping off the model. So I like the airbrush priming just because it's just finer control. But I don't do enamel through that. Like you can get enamel primers that really stick to your model that are really kind of good. So I get the folks that do the rattle can priming. I always screw it up. I'm like, oh, it's great, and then it's like, oh no, now they look like they're melting.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Generally, when you do prime, you really, you do want it covered, but if some areas are like not fully covered, but that you can see that it got on there, that's really, in my experience, all you need. You just need something for that next layer to adhere to. And generally you don't need it like thick. You don't want
a shell. Yeah. Well, that's other good advice too. Like thin your paints is kind of a rallying cry in the in the painting world about the. When I first started, the first model I ever painted, I think I was using Testors enamel that were really designed for like model cars. Like RPGs and miniatures were like a secondary hobby at the hobby store to the people who did like RC cars. And those people know how to they have airbrushes and they have thinners and the red was like Blanc, and then it was just like a solid case of just. So I thought to go find one of my miniatures I painted, but it's like you can't see any detail under it. It just looks like it's being, just swallowed by the blob. But
speaking of old miniatures, I was talking about the Dark Angels and things I started with. I was lucky enough that my mom kept all those and gave them to me recently. So I have all of these original. I wish I'd brought one because it'd be great to show people. They're wonderfully awful. They're like a Dark Angels green with these bright, thick, uneven line edge highlights, and I just love having them because personally I love being able to see the journey I've come along.
Yeah, I was thinking about trying to find like the Raul Partha Cavalier Knight that I ruined with enamel paints, and doing it like the 30 years later. That's soon to be 40 years later. Gosh, damn. We're getting old, man.
Yeah.
But let's look at the numbers. So I love the Scorch Mini, and we will get more of that. But I think the first one we asked you to do is the Goblin Mini, and I love this Goblin Mini. So this miniature, like full disclosure, is smaller in the campaign. So this was printed like much larger, just so we could you actually get the video work on it. So this guy, it's very subtle. Like you'll notice his ears are two different sizes, and there's a reason for that. But I really like all the work you did. Like even just the little details, like the gem on the chair. So what do you call the technique where you can see the radiative, the color from the gem, radiating out from it?
Yeah, so people generally call that object source lighting, depending on how you view what's going on here. So one would be the gems emitting light. I think when I did it, I was kind of picturing light coming from the top right here and passing through the gem and getting colored, which I guess, but ultimately the thing you're doing is the same effect. So you're basically trying to make something in the scene look like a light source. And one key, trying to see my little monitor here turned off, so I can't see the camera as well. But but one key to doing that is basically okay, cool. So one thing you can see around the gem and below it is much darker, and over on the side over here is darker. It's really hard to make things look like they're light or emitting light if there's no darkness as well. So if you have a miniature that looks like just a standard overhead light source, and then just spray like a fluorescent paint onto it to try to get an OSL, you'll be like, what? This doesn't look right. It looks weird, and it kind of looks like it's sitting in daylight, and somebody has a flashlight on or something. It's like if you think about a flashlight in the daytime, you don't see the light from the flashlight. So you always want some darkness around there. This guy was really cool. Just thinking through him, I like a lot of these miniatures have really cool expressive faces. faces are always a really good place to spend a lot of time because as humans, we're trained to look at faces. And so that's one of the first things people usually look at, unless you've maybe got a diorama or something that's got a lot of other stuff going on. So,
yeah, about embrace the dark side. In general, he says it's really a struggle between the light side and the dark side. So embrace the darks. How do you, in your method, like, if you prime mid gray, do you go back and then lay down darks and then lights, or lights and darks opposite, or it depends on part of it? Is there, like, if I usually prime black and then build up to the lights, so it's kind of a one directional thing. Like, where do you go when you start mid?
Yeah, I generally tend to start with some darks then, and then build back up all the way to the lights. So I'll often come in with an airbrush, and if I remember right, I think on this one I actually did several passes trying to figure out how I wanted to highlight and shade things. But the cool thing with airbrushes is, like, let me see if you look like this, like if the camera's an airbrush, right? Like as I'm rotating this, you're cutting off more and more and more of like the top of it. And so you can like spray dark colors from like this angle, and you'll catch all the under edges of these things up here. And you can start to establish darks that way, and then opposite, so if you came this way with your darks, you're going to come from the opposite direction with light probably. And so that kind of helps do some initial shading. And then I think generally I'll do the figure first and then the base. So on this guy, and this guy's a little different. The base is, this giant throne. But I did do the goblin first. And like on this guy, I started with, I think, the inner purple shirt he's wearing, just because things like that can get really hard to reach later on. And then I did all the skin and kind of started to build outward. So shirt, and then all the skin, then this armor, and the leggings. Once you're kind of at the point where you're like on the parts that are far away from everything else, you can start to do them in any order. And then, like when I switched to the throne, I come in and I like really you just need to be careful around him, right? And actually, I do remember on this guy, I sent a picture to JM when I finished him, and I was like, "Look how cool he looks." And then I looked at the picture again, and I saw when I'd been doing the throne, I had like a ton of overspray on his arm or something. I was like, "Oh, geez, like I got to redo all that." So
it is actually kind of crazy taking a picture of it and looking at a picture versus holding it in your hand and looking at it. There's just things that you see in the photo. It kind of goes back to the earlier point you're talking about, like the eye of the beholder and the eye of the creator. And then the camera, like with when you actually do the zoom in, and you're like, oh, it's so unforgiving because a good zoom camera can get many times more than your eye really can. And I love that miniature. It's really fun back and forth on this. So initially, we had the goblin was both hands down, and I was like, Austin Sizer is the guy who did our monster miniatures. And I'm like, Austin, man, can we make him a little more badass? He was kind of sitting back, and his head was against the back, and it was stayed. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know if I want a calm, like, Royal Marm kind of Goblin King. I want a guy who's like off with your head. So he leaned him forward. His shoulders are bent, his hands out and accusatory, and the head's cocked. I'm like, oh, so much. It's a little tweaks like that. So there was a lot of really good fun back and forth with our model designers as well. So we'll get them on the stream. You guys can ask some questions. But the Cripright asked a really cool question. He says, if we were a backer, will we get the STL files or just get the miniatures? Well, if you want to pull up the Ice Giant, the Frost Giant. Yeah. So I believe, going to allow the STLs at certain pledge levels, so you can print these any size you want, and they do print much larger. They are over designed for what they are. They are highly detailed. But this Frost Giant, we're doing a really cool thing. So there's a contest to get published with Portals to Adventure. We are also going to hold a contest for miniature painting. So follow along on our socials, follow on the page, click on the. If you go to the campaign page and click follow, You'll get an email about this. So we're going to release, we have an alternate pose for this Frost Giant miniature. And we are going to release the STL for free to anybody who just signs up for the contest, gives us your email, and we'll email you the STL. And so one, that's coming out soon. And so if you guys want to start painting up and getting a taste of what it's like to paint these and do you like them for your table, we'll hold a contest for that too. And they'll probably have a really kind of fun prize that is in there. And we might even have a celebrity painting judge, some good stuff there. So keep an eye out on our socials and on the newsletter for that. So we'll have an alternate post. But I do believe we're going to have the STLs available for backers. I'm not sure all the pluggables that are included in, whether they're just in the digitals or the digital and physical, but with the 3D printing revolution, we love seeing folks, you make a whole army of gibbering or gibbering mouthers or whatever you want. So, but we also are in the business of selling you miniatures too. So it is not just an STL campaign; it is also the physical produced miniatures. So, tell us how you designed this guy and what kind of went into your painting process. So, thanks for that question, Corpusman, too.
Yeah. So this guy actually reminds me something interesting for me is I really have mostly painted from other studios, like not original things before. And so when I got this guy, I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like trying to figure out what everything is at first, because it's all just gray at the time and I have no box art or anything to reference. And I was trying to figure out what was going on with this spear until I was like, oh, this guy just like pulled a tree out of the ground and is about to club you with it. And I was like, that's pretty sweet. And then other than that, I just knew, he's a frost giant. You're going to get some cool, interesting skin. And
yeah, what's it like working with blue skin versus the kind of the normal, human peachy, muddy, brown kind of tones you get with humanoid characters? What's it like doing blues? Like, what's the darker? Do you go purple for the darks? Do you go teals for the high? Like, how do you decide what makes blue skin work?
Yeah, so for me, I like having color in my shadows. So I'll almost always go, like if I have the option, instead of just like a dark blue on this guy, you can see there's a red purplish tone in these shadows. I like that. Reds also give a feeling of life to things. Like if you think about a zombie, one of the main things about zombie skin is it's like a flesh tone with the red subtracted out, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of green in skin normally.
Yeah.
And so like it comes out in like the zombie or like the dead flesh. Yeah, green is like there's a surprising amount of green in human flesh.
Yeah, and really, there's just all sorts of colors in your flesh. And so that is one thing with like these fantasy skin tones is you have a lot of freedom to do what you want. But yeah, and then I think I actually experimented a little bit with a tealish color on the highlights and decided that it wasn't really the direction I wanted to go. So it really just comes up to a more desaturated blue here. Yeah, I love this guy's face. Very expressive. And then I really like doing, let me see if I can get up here, like doing the leather and everything on this guy. If you look at a lot of miniature tutorials and things are really focused on getting smooth blends and smooth highlights and everything like that. And that's very much not what like a rough, coarse leather is. It's not smooth. It's got lots of rough texture and everything to it. So for something like this, I would take like a dry brush and choose maybe three or so colors to like stipple on over each other. And then you come back with the base tone, which is this like kind of a purplish red tone, and do like a transparent filter over the rough stuff to smooth it out a little bit, make it all come together. And then also on leather, I really like to go along the edges. Just edges tend to get worn a lot. So really like doing the leather on this guy.
I think it's what really sets apart like expert painters like you from like novice painters like me. Is like I would pick one color for the leather, like this is leather, and just paint by numbers, like everything over there, it's all the same thing, and you can just see how much more dynamic your paints come out, and just like you mentioned that level, like I can see the subtle greens that you put in there, and then the reds, and you think they cancel each other out, but if you separate them, they don't. I think that's kind of like you mentioned, the wet blending and just getting. Like I would make the mistake of being like, oh, I want a lighter blue. Let me mix in white. Or like I want a darker, I want to mix in black. It's like, oh no, go chroma for darker and lighter. It's more interesting and more dynamic. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We've got a question from Anonymous75. Asks, how often do you paint something and then paint over it totally different because it doesn't look right, or do you prefer not to do that?
I'd say I almost never paint over like an entire mini again. Some of that has to do with what I was talking about earlier about like having a history of my painting journey. I just like to have that as an example. While doing a mini, there's definitely times where I've basically totally redone parts because I either didn't like how it turned out with the rest of the model, messed something up, unfortunately, things like that. And that's always a little bit of a challenge, right? Now you're faced with having to trying to like isolate that portion of the model. Maybe if you were mixing paints, you're gonna have to try and recreate the same tones or things. And so a lot of times you'll end up, if you're you scraped off some paint on the back of this guy's hand or something, you may end up having to like repaint the whole hand just to make it all blend together nicely again. But I think a lot of times I'll just kind of like keep working on something. One thing I've learned a lot of times is, a lot of times stuff doesn't look super great at first. Like if you paint this, you have this reddish, purpley brown tone as your base coat, and then you're coming in with this like dry brush and doing some stippling. It looks really harsh at first. If you like, and you could go, that's terrible, I gotta figure out something else to do. But really it's like you stipple some more layers on, bring the base layer back in to filter it back down again. You can kind of keep working it. And that is one reason people will harp on thin your paints and stuff, is because if your paints are thin, you can actually just do that for as long as you want, pretty much. If you have thick paints, you start to build up a lot of texture, which maybe would be great on this leather. But yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I think folks are loving it. We have a ton of viewers for our first stream, so thank you guys for all showing up. Just pop in questions. We'll throw them to Luke. I think if this is well received and you guys enjoy these kind of live streams, you can do a couple more leading up to the campaign and some during the campaign. But we got a whole spray booth setup here, so if you want to get Luke back over here actually painting on a stream and showing some techniques, that'd be cool too. So if you want to see that, let us know. Oh my God, this one is crazy. So this is one that you just finished with the final miniature of the 18. Gosh, she's amazing. So this is one of our hags, the sea hags, and so creepy. I love the sculpt, but what was your inspiration? And like the little boils under her armpit, you would kind of a very orangey purple. And do you decide, like, do you look at other models for inspiration and think, oh, okay, I like how these colors go together, or do you use color theory? When do you start with? We didn't give you box art, we didn't give you a thing like make it look like this. So
so I'll get the other hags out too, because that'll help. I actually did these smaller ones first.
Yeah, so this is a really cool miniature, guys. So this is actually why it's 18 and not 16. This is actually a 3-part miniature, and if you notice, you can put them. I think I have to move the out of the way, but like the hags are all kind of 3 different sizes, but the bases line up, and so it's a little like call it a shoreline. So the models, they actually line up together, so you can use them together, and then the marsh shore, the swampy shore lines up.
This might be risky. We're gonna bring it up a little closer.
he's really good on camera. He's like, we didn't do a dry run on any of this stuff. So, so you can kind of get an idea of how those faces line up. And yeah, they're three different, in the way the dungeon's written, they're three different types of sea hags, and they are radically different sizes and powers. So they go together, but it's like not just one miniature; it's three separate miniatures. So, show us what you did with these, because they are very gorgeous. I love the sculpts, but I mean, you really took them to the next level.
Yeah, so I started with these two little ones I kind of did simultaneously. So this one is, in my mind, pulling up like this green magic out of the swamp and stuff, starting to pull it. But she's very clearly covered in lots of boils and things. And so I started with these, and I'll pull the other one here as well. And I really like this one. I get these like cool kind of fish person vibes from her face and stuff almost.
She's got like the fin spikes on her arms and
basically I wanted these two to read pretty different. And so this one, the body is all much warmer tones. So like if you look at the back here, lots of flesh, like kind of red, bruisey flesh tones. Whereas this one is all these cool tones, kind of a bluish, blues and purples and greens. And then again, faces are always important. On this one, she had these really big round eyes, and I just kind of felt like these big black, voids were kind of creepy. And so I did these two, and then we come back to this one, which sits in the center, and it's like, okay, we've got the boils from this one already kind of established with some colors. We've also got this big, lots of leather on her. So you've already got a lot of like yellows and warm tones and things. And I kind of knew I didn't then want to have the skin be a more normal skin tone. And I basically kind of looked up a lot of, kind of like a lot of witch references, or like Eastern European, like concepts and stuff for things like this. And that kind of informed like the nose here, but also just kind of like, when I think about older people, I think of more pale skin. You start to see more veins and stuff. And I didn't really do much veining on here, but overall that led me to this kind of more ashen purpley skin tone that's going on here. And so I did that and was just really happy with how that initially came out. So then we came to the face. You can also see like, on both of these, they both have like this little they have like blue lips, but then they have like this little stripe on them. I just felt like that was kind of just a fun little thing, kind of maybe like ritualistic, or I don't know why they would do it, but it looked cool. But like on the skulls on her, I painted these sigils and stuff. Kind of felt like all kind of building up to this witch hag feeling with those little details.
Yeah, it's very much so in a future stream, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna do this again because this has gone great so far. I don't want you to show it today, but there's a dragon miniature that was epic, and I love what the little detail you put on there. You put some sigils. It's like casting spells on you, and it's like, oh, such a good choice, Luke. So you guys will have to tune into a future stream to see that miniature. We have it right over here, but yeah, we can't show all of the miniatures in just one stream. So But I love that choice. Just like this little things, like putting the sigils on the skulls and.
I love doing that stuff because to me that's the fun part. Getting the base coats and the colors and all that figured out it's like if you're cooking a meal, right? That's like your prep work that you have to do up front. Doing all the details, especially in faces, you can just spend a lot of time working on them, finding fun things to do, making them interesting. Like like we said earlier, there's so many colors in skin tones that you can really be pretty brave. There's also, I don't know the name for this, but you can find maps of faces. So like a normal, this is probably more for male faces, but male faces tend to be more yellow up around your forehead, kind of red across here, and then more blue down along the chin. A lot of that has to do with how blood is distributed or how close blood is to the surface. One reason I said males is because a lot of times the blueness comes from stubble and stuff like that. But you can actually find videos online of people doing like primary yellow, red, blues on faces, and then basically coming over them with a skin tone, and they get it to a place that looks great. So yeah, like things like that are really fun to do.
So what's your number one tip for someone who's, I know it's hard remembering back when you're, a brand new. What's your number one tip for people just getting into the miniature painting hobby? Like, is there equipment that's a thing you wish you get, a technique? What advice do you have to the new and aspiring miniature painters?
I have a couple tips. My true, real number one tip is probably to be nice to yourself. It's really easy when you make things, when you paint, really when you make anything, to be hard on yourself and discourage yourself. And if you stop yourself there, you're never going to get anywhere. And honestly, I largely come from more of a STEM background, and it took me, well, it's something I still struggle with. But yeah, just kind of being content or happy with how things turn out. Like I did a thing, I made a thing. It's awesome. That's the real number one tip. I would say
they say in RPGs that like a book is never really finished; it's just published, and you kind of move on. Like there's always an error you go back and fix or something you want to change. Is it similar with miniatures for you? That like at some point you're just like, okay, I'm saying it's done, and I'm good with this now, even though there's an edge you could highlight or a thing you don't like and go back and change or whatever. Is there ever is that a hard choice for you, or is it easy to be like, oh no, there we go, last little dot, paint it?
No, I don't know how other people. This is like my eye is still in the creator mode here. I don't know how other people see these. I can see flaws and things I would change on almost all of these. But and I actually have a really hard time painting things to lower standards. So if I wanted to like speed paint a Warhammer army or something at like a tabletop level, I think that would be kind of challenging for me to just do that, because I always just want to go back in and do this stuff. So this whole project was really cool because it's just a big project of really big, cool things I got to take my time on.
Well, that's another thing too, is right. It's like you are technically the first person who ever gets to paint these miniatures ever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Weird feeling.
It's like you said, like before, everybody, and experts have already painted every Warhammer miniature. It's on the box, the box art. It's already been done, right? So it's like, but these are going to be part of a huge campaign. Thousands of people are going to get their hands on these, and Luke is the guy who got to paint them first, which is pretty cool.
The other tip I would have for people that is a little more practical than just being nice to yourself is probably I would try not to work on too many things at once. So like be pretty happy with where you're at and then choose something on your next miniature that you want to work on. So maybe you want to work on skin tones. So you're going to, you have an Imperial Guardsman or something. You're going to paint the armor and uniform and all that, the gun, how you normally would. But then maybe however long that took you, like spend the same amount of time on the skin tone that you're trying to improve on. And be conscious with that effort to improve. So that means maybe finding a tutorial, looking at references of, like if it's an Imperial Guardsman, like I was saying, maybe go find some pictures of some military officers, see how they look. If there's, and really, if you find a picture you like that you think looks cool, literally try to paint the guy like that. You know, where do the reds go? What does the stubble look like on this guy?
Who are your favorite inspirations? Like, whether people you look for YouTube for tutorials or you just admire their work. You got any names you want to throw out there?
Yeah. I mean, Vince Venturella is a great one for tutorials and everything. Let's see. I really like. Man, now you put me on the spot. I can't think of him.
Well, I'll answer a question. What do you think? We got a question I can answer. Cripright asks, stepped away, do some of these have round bases or some square, or is it the prototype version? So there is a mix. So the we've got some Delver minis, and most of those are circular. But we've got some that are just kind of custom shaped. I'd say the majority of the monsters are round bases, but like the hags to fit together, those are all square. And the goblin miniature is one piece. There's not really a separate base for it. He's in the throne, so the throne is kind of the whole deal. And a bunch of other ones are circular bases. So mostly circular, but these are the prototype that what you see here is so the Mauler is a part of its base, and we don't know if the resin vent holes will be there or not, but that was one I printed it hollow because it's big. And I
thought the circle would be easier, and then it was all unfinished and on the bottom.
Right. So the goblin, you see that guy's the spoil, all one piece. The Mauler is circular base, but all one piece. We're still not sure, so we're still going back and forth with our production folks on whether or not on the bigger models, just how assembled they're going to be. So like for our Dragon Scorch there, he's got another name from the name I like to call him Scorch. Our Austin Sizer, who made it, he separated out the wings and then the body from the base. So the base, the body, and the two wings are separate on the STLs that we currently have. But that is one that maybe the producers are going to just print it all as one. So we're still kind of feeling that out with our production side, seeing how they're going to come to the consumers. So some of these, like, it depends on how they're going to be packaged for safety and then size. And sometimes it's very easy to put a base underneath them and doesn't really change the dimensions of what the box would be. But other times it really does change the dimensions. So it is a mix. It's a long answer to a short question, but who do you like for we're almost at the hour, so that went by fast. We'll definitely have to have you back in this painting. If a model comes in pieces, would you paint it in pieces or assemble or vice versa?
That's a really good question and something I've changed on over time. I used to just assemble everything from the start and paint it. And my rationale was if I can't get a brush to it and paint it, then it probably can't be seen that well. And if it's like if it's the dark, like if you prime black or something, like it's already going to be deep in the crevice or something. Nowadays, I will. I'm trying to see if there's any examples here, like the Frost Giant we showed earlier.
So Frost Giant came with like head separate, weapons separate, base separate.
Yeah, so I think this attaches at the hand here.
Yeah,
I had that off just because it would make painting the chest area and everything really awkward. Just trying to get your brush in there. You can but it makes a lot of, if you're used to blending or just using your brush in certain ways, it's kind of annoying when that stuff gets in the way. So, I
agree. I think it's kind of dependent on the model. Like I've been assembling a present for a friend and lots of little tiny pieces you can add to it. I'm like, oh, well, I'd like to glue resin to resin. So I don't want to glue paint to paint, after I paint them all. That was a mistake. It's because there's just certain things where the little tiny pieces I was adding are now things that have to avoid breaking off while I'm painting it because they're very tiny. And then part of it, like some cannonball barrels, occlude part of the other part of the ship. It's like, oh, now I got to get the brush back there and that. So I think it's kind of dependent on the model and what you're occluding with the assembly. And I think plastic to plastic or resin to resin glues better.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, back in the day with metal minis, it was like if you did do sub-assemblies, it was pretty hard to like you wanted to make sure you had dry fit and everything to make sure they'd go together nicely.
Yeah, right. Dry fit, keep the faces clean and painted.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other reason sometimes is some models will come. Trying to think of a good example, like maybe like a vehicle. You might have like the say like the ramp comes separate or something, and you're using an airbrush. If you keep it separate, you can just airbrush it a different color if you want. Much easier. Whereas if you attach it and prime it all together, then you're gonna have to mask or do something to if you want it to be a different color. So sometimes it's kind of nice when things come in multiple pieces if they're going to be different colors and things, because you can keep that separation nice. But yeah, ultimately, I've kind of moved to doing some sub-assemblies if I think it's going to interfere with the painting.
So so you mentioned airbrushing, you mentioned brush. Is there, does it depend on when you get the airbrush out? Do you always use it? Like what percentage of a model or your time? Like, so airbrushing, I found it greatly decreases the time you need to get the effect you want. So like, I was showing Luke before, I was learning to use the airbrush, and wet blending over a large area is kind of hard for me, like to get a really good fade. I always just screw it up, and and it's hard to get like, I'll get like a little circular area and get it like, here's a lighter color, here's a darker color. It looks great there. And it's like, okay, but I want it over the whole thing. That's hard, but much easier with airbrush because you just do the darks and then the lights. It blends itself kind of. It's very nice. So yeah, what's your kind of between airbrush and paint? And do you use acrylics mostly? What's your kit and your process like?
Yeah, so I'm mostly use acrylics. I do use some like oils and enamels, mostly for washes now. And I do tend to start with the airbrush. I do like the way I was showing earlier with like the angles and things, the way you can kind of use it to simulate light to see definition and things like that. It is harder when minis get smaller. Can I show this rat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one we haven't shown yet. Like this rat wizard guy. I think this turned out cool. It does have you can tell it's airbrushed because it is so smooth and everything. I generally don't like things to just straight look airbrushed. So I'll generally do like on this guy, I did all the skin initially with the airbrush, like the base tones and everything, and then like on the face, I come in with a brush afterwards to do a lot of the more detailed stuff, the eyes, nose, like things like that. Fun thing about this guy, so he's a rat. My daughter Annabelle had 2 pet rats for a couple of years. One of them was named Oatmeal, and this guy is painted like oatmeal. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So fun things like that you can do when you paint. I mentioned earlier I'd done a one-shot with John Matthew at one point for Legend of the Five Rings, and that I had never played that before, and that sent me down this whole L5R pathway at one point. And so I looked at a lot of L5R art for kimonos and things when I did this guy. So I don't know if this is it. I don't know. Can you see like the swirls and stuff?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. So tried to be a little brave on this one with some freehand and do some of these like subtle swirls like air and stuff, and then like the clouds and the little cranes all over it. It's got like this like reeds and stuff along the base of the kimono there. So like I actually messaged John Matthew. I was like, hey, like, do you have any like art direction on this one? He was like, no, you can do what you want. I was like, I'm gonna try something. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, and I ended up really liking it. But to the question earlier about like, do you repaint things? I actually did this one a couple times. I originally on these clouds, I found some art that used like like pinks and red like dots and stuff that looked really cool when it was on my phone screen. And then I painted them on here. And when I got down to my desk the next day, I was just like, this guy's covered in pepperoni pizzas. Like this yellow cheesy looking cloud with like these reddish pinkish dots all over them. So I basically like painted them all back over in the base tone again, and decided like just the cloud looked good enough.
Nice. This is going to get you back and forth with this model. So this one is printed right here a lot larger than it is in game. Like in the dungeon, he is a like rat person size. So he's very, very tiny. And the initial design didn't have that rock there. It was just cantilever balanced on his staff. And so it just came down to the point. And on this size model, you probably get away with it, like maybe not breaking. But, you know, as small as it actually has to be in the game for him to be the correct size for the way the monster is written, it's just a very delicate miniature. And I didn't actually break it, but I'm like, oh, Austin, can you beef that up? Because it's not, you know, the size we needed. I think it's going to be so fragile. This will be the one that, you know, people complain breaks too easily. So, I mean, I love this design concept on, like, you know, the monk. You're just balancing on the staff. It's kind of one of those tricks where you see the staff here and then the person standing up and kind of against it. And but we made sure, like, this is meant to be played. And that's kind of another nice thing someone mentioned about the STLs. It's like, we'd be happy to give you the alternate version if you really want to do an art piece that you're, you know, maybe you actually slice it in your 3D printing slicer and you put a metal rod in there to make sure it's much stronger than a little bit of resin that's going to be holding it. But cool alternate is available for that one. But guys, we hit our hour, so I'm going to let Luke get back to his family because it is Easter week and folks got some stuff. So, of course, last minute question. Sure. Right? You could. I mean, cut pencil's not bad. But, you know, like little metal rods are handy because, you know, good tensile strength. So I think we'll have Luke back on. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We didn't abuse him too hard. And hopefully I'll have you back on during the campaign. And maybe we'll actually get some painting done. We got a whole little air booth set up. So you can try out doing like live painting. And we appreciate all of you tuning in. It was a really well-attended stream for getting this off the ground from scratch. We're like, hey, let's get the stream stuff going from scratch, you know, before the campaign. So all the little timers and all the, like, you know, this will be up on YouTube eventually, but we couldn't live stream to YouTube because you gotta give it at least, I think, 24, 48 hours now. You gotta tell them you're gonna stream. So we'll probably run this again sometime this week on YouTube if you missed it. So World's Largest RPG does have a YouTube channel, and this will be like maybe the first video on there. And bring your questions. And the campaign's very exciting. So one more time for folks, the World's Largest Dungeon is coming back May 13th. And let me pull it up yet. So the World's Largest RPGs.com, which you can go and find out. It's got links to all the stuff. We're going to be launching it on BackerKit. There is a party page, landing page already available. And if you go to the party page, let's go add this for you real quick and show you guys. So this is the landing page. And if you just go click yes, I want that free pin with pledge, that will get you a free Scorch pin when you follow the campaign before we launch on May 13th. It'll be available as a purchasable add-on if you don't get it before the campaign. But you can get it for free if you follow the campaign now. All you do is give us your email. And we'll really only email you about the campaign launching. And so we're not going to be spammy with it. But you can see, look at all those gorgeous miniatures there. There's a Chimera. There's a Barghast. There's a Boar Demon. Oh, my God, the Boar Demon and the base are great. The Ent is amazing. The Cryo Hydra, which is going to be a painter's nightmare because it's so gorgeously textured and detailed. So if you want to paint individual scales, you can. There's a Cathrax. There's the there's a great Strider Spider with an awesome bow. So a lot of really cool stuff. Oh my God, the Worm. So the miniatures are awesome. There's going to be 18 boss miniatures. So here's the landing page. You can find out all the good stuff. So yeah, click that little yes, I want the free pledge, or you can go to the Oh, and if you open it up, I can hear myself as we're actually streaming right now. You can go there and see what good stuff. So we will do more live streams. We appreciate you guys showing up for this one. And sorry, I got to close it out because I'm hearing myself in my head. So yeah, so guys, thank you. We really appreciate you guys showing up for our very first live stream. The follow the campaign, World's Largest Dungeon. It is the Guinness Book of World Records, biggest dungeon ever produced. It has got 16 huge regions. Each one of them has a big boss battle at the end. So that's why there's 16 plus 2 because you get 2 extra for the witches on the regions. It was a bestseller 20 years ago, and we're hoping we got, I think, over almost 8,600 some followers for the campaign already. So we hope it'll be, I think it's the most followed RPG campaign or most followed campaign on BackerKit for like the last 5 months. So one more month, it gets like 26 days before we're launching May 13th. And we're bringing it back. Gorgeous new edition. We'll do some more streams. We'll preview some of what's available from on the book side. But those minis are just fantastic. So we really hope that you guys are going to enjoy those. Right, it is kind of a big deal. And lots of love for Luke. Great work, says Rebaker92. So yeah, we'll get Luke back because Luke's he's awesome. And we love people. So if you were a fan of the original, we want to hear from you because a lot of the dungeon is the same. It's just updated to the new current version, the 5e/5e 2024 version of the system. But we have an all new first level because that was the one thing I think the original team. It wasn't as diverse and interesting as it could have been on the monster choice. So Jim hit us back with a wholly redesigned first level, which is really exciting. With the rest of it, kind of we'll bring back that nostalgia. We've got secret door adventures with some of the industry's greatest. We've got a contest, Portals to Adventures. Let me find that to throw that up on the screen one more time. So if you guys want to break into the industry and have your friends judge and your peers judge your work, we are holding a contest that you can be one of the people who get published with this campaign. So you'll get to be published one of the biggest RPG products of the year, if not a couple of. Hopefully, it's really big, guys. We're really excited. We're glad that so many folks are here, and I know there's some tariff kerfuffle going on in the industry, but we're all veterans. We are ready to weather the storm and anticipate what's going to happen. So this is steaming ahead at full speed. It's going to be really great. The team is great. So. We will make dungeons great again. And so you guys can get published. Portals-2-adventure.com is where you get the information on that. You can start there. It's open now. Voting will begin in a few days. So you can start getting your submissions in on a small adventure. And we're going to do a painting contest. So if you are a miniature painter and you want to throw your hand at it, it's going to be a alternate pose, a variant pose of that frost giant. So get your frost giant noggin working on what you might want to do with that. There'll be a free download STL, and then I think we'll also try to find a way that if you don't have a 3D printer, we should throw it up on one of the sites where you can pay to have it 3D printed at cost and shipped to you. So if you want to get on the mini contest, we're going to have that going too. So writing contest, mini contest, World's Largest Dungeon coming back big, May 13th, 26 days. So follow along on the campaign. Thank you to the slew of people who showed up for our very first live stream. We didn't have any followers, whatever. We just made the Twitch channel. So appreciate you guys showing up. Boy, I guess we'll do more of these. This one turned out great. And thanks for all the questions. Hopefully we'll do some fun stuff. Maybe we'll do some giveaways, prizes for the people who show up. So thank you, everybody who showed up. This video, I think, will be on YouTube within the week. And other than that, keep a follow. Go to our launch party page on BackerKit for the campaign. That's linked from the follow page. And you should be able to see and get notified the next time we do one of these live streams. So we're definitely going to do a live stream when the campaign starts on May 15th, but pretty sure this one went well enough and we'll do some more before then. So thank you guys. Get out there and play some RPGs this week. And other than that, we will definitely see you May 13th, if not before. Thanks again, Luke. Appreciate you coming over, and we'll have you back. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.